Have you ever been betrayed so publicly, so viciously, that the air seemed to vanish from the room? I was standing on stage, moments away from the biggest announcement of my career. A spotlight beamed down on me. The audience was silent with anticipation, champagne ready to pop, and my company's logo glowing proudly behind me. 3 years of relentless work. Countless sleepless nights. A groundbreaking innovation, one I had poured my soul into. I was finally here, on the verge of a breakthrough. Until my husband stood up and blew everything to pieces. "This isn't her innovation," he shouted. "She stole it." The words hit harder than I ever imagined they could. I blinked in confusion, thinking I must have misheard. My husband, James, the man I loved, the one who had watched me build every single line of this technology, was accusing me of theft. In front of investors, journalists, and peers. You could have heard a pin drop in that ballroom. He pulled out papers from his jacket and waved them like a magician revealing a trick. "I have proof," he declared. "The algorithm was created by someone else. She's been lying to all of you." For a second I couldn't breathe. The audience stared. Phones were pulled out. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs into judgment. Just like that, everything I'd worked for, the credibility, the launch, the trust, was collapsing. But what James didn't know was that the moment he tried to destroy me, he made the biggest mistake of his life. I didn't fall apart. Got smarter. I stepped down from that stage, my heart breaking, but my mind already calculating. I knew something was off. I had never worked with anyone named David Brown. I had built the algorithm myself, line by line, in our apartment, often while James sat nearby offering coffee and encouragement. So where had these so-called documents come from? That night, James didn't even bother to come home. I stayed up, combing through files and backups, because before I ever became a tech entrepreneur, I was a cybersecurity specialist. I kept everything. Original code repositories, timestamp design notes, even voice memos from my late-night development sessions. And the real twist. There were security cameras in our home office. James didn't know I'd installed them months earlier after a neighbor's break-in. And one of them had caught him, at 2:13 a.m., sitting at my desk, photoshopping fake documents. Now the question wasn't whether I'd survive the scandal. It was whether James would survive what came next. The next morning, James waltzed into our apartment as if he hadn't just detonated my career in front of 50 investors. He loosened his tie, grabbed a glass of water and casually said, "You should thank me for not doing this sooner." I stared at him like I was seeing a stranger. "Where did you get those documents?" I asked, my voice trembling. He shrugged. "You were getting too confident. Too successful. This was supposed to be our project. But somewhere along the way, it became all about you." There it was, the truth. He wasn't trying to protect intellectual property. He was punishing me for outgrowing him. I told him to leave. He smirked. "You've got nothing without me. No investors. No credibility. No product." Well, I had everything I needed to prove the truth. That night, I contacted the fiercest tech lawyer in Silicon Valley, Rachel Wong. Then I messaged my team. We weren't canceling the launch. We were postponing 1 week. And by then, the world would know exactly who had built Terran. Within 48 hours, Rachel's office became mission control. She moved with a kind of precision that could shake CEOs and bulldoze false narratives. "James already filed paperwork," she said, pacing her office with a view of the bay. "He's claiming joint ownership of your—" An unexpected call from the supposed inventor. James claimed I stole from. "Ms. Miller," the man said kindly. "My name is David Brown. I'm with Horizon Technologies. I saw my name being dragged into some allegations." My heart sank. "I swear I don't even know you." "I believe you," he said. "I got an email from someone claiming to represent you last week. Didn't feel right. Our systems aren't even that similar." He offered to send a formal statement confirming there was no IP conflict. No theft. Nothing. It was the break I needed. Meanwhile, my team rallied around me. Sophia, my head of marketing, turned her dining room into a war room. My lead engineer Priya brought forward every version of the code, each line timestamped and authenticated. Our hardware lead Kai gathered photos and documents showing each prototype iteration, each signature, every update. I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Strength. We weren't just defending my reputation. We were building the truth. Then Melanie Carter came forward. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of a broken past. I was his fiancée. He did to me what he's trying to do to you. He destroyed my company, and when I spoke up, no one believed me. And she wasn't alone. Soon 2 other founders, Sanjay and Lucas, shared similar stories. James had wormed his way into their lives, into their startups, only to sabotage them when they gained momentum. It was a pattern. Sick game. But this time he'd picked the wrong woman. We weren't just going to fight back. We were going to build something new. Together that we called ourselves Renaissance Partners. What started as a support group of 4 betrayed founders quickly transformed into something powerful. My environmental tech, Melanie's solar innovations, Sanjay's sustainable construction materials, and Lucas's analytics tools. Individually, we were survivors. Together, we were unstoppable. Our vision was bold. A unified platform to help businesses measure, manage, and improve their sustainability footprint from end to end. And the irony, it only existed because of James. He tried to break us. We built a revolution instead. But we weren't naive. We knew James wouldn't just crawl away and lick his wounds. He had too much pride, too much history of slipping out of tight spots. And sure enough, on Friday morning, 2 days before our alliance planning kickoff, he made his move. I was reviewing code with Priya when Sophia burst into the room, breathless. Turn on the news. There he was, Polish, boys, standing at a podium next to a woman I'd never seen. I take full responsibility, he said, voice shaking, for failing my wife. But these allegations against me, they're lies. Smear campaigns by former colleagues who want to bring me down. The woman beside him nodded, her voice steady. I've known James my whole life. This isn't who he is. Sophia's face turned to stone. That's Vanessa Miller, she said. His sister. His sister. James had never even mentioned a sibling in 4 years of marriage. But he wasn't finished. What breaks my heart the most, James said, is that these attacks have affected my family. Vanessa's nonprofit, which helps indigenous communities adapt to climate change, just lost its main funding because of her last name. Manipulation level expert. I wanted to scream. But instead I got a text from Melanie. Classic James. Tugging heartstrings. Don't fall for it. Rachel called next. Ignore it. It's diversion. He's painting himself as the victim. Don't take the bait. But part of me couldn't let it go. What if Vanessa was real? What if she wasn't involved? Then I got the email. From Vanessa herself. She sounded calm. Polite. I know this is complicated. I just lost my organization's funding. James told me you might know someone who could help. And there it was, the trap. He wanted me to help her. Not for her sake, but to confuse me. To soften me. To pull me off balance. Still, I agreed to meet her. The next morning, I sat across from Vanessa at a crowded cafe downtown. She was articulate, passionate. Her nonprofit had real projects, real photos, real stories. She spoke about rising sea levels in Indonesia and how her team was working with local leaders. She seemed genuine. Was she just another pawn in James's game? Or had I become so guarded that I was seeing deception where there wasn't any? I told her I'd help connect her to potential funders. And then, just hours later, I got a call from our private investigator. Vanessa's nonprofit is real, he said. But its primary funder. A shell foundation linked to a company James used under a fake name. That grant came in right when your marriage began to collapse. Coincidence? Doubt it. My blood turned cold. James hadn't just pulled her into this. He'd built her up financially so he could later knock her down and blame me. Now, I wasn't sure who Vanessa really was. Victim or accomplice. Willing or unaware. But there was no time to dwell. James had filed an emergency injunction. A last-minute attempt to stop our alliance from forming. His claim. That we were conspiring to steal his business strategies. Rachel called an emergency meeting. He's trying to paint your alliance as corporate espionage. We go to court Monday. That Monday, the courthouse steps were lined with press. The media was eating it up. Betrayal. Tech wars. A jilted husband. A rising founder. The headlines practically wrote themselves. But James had made a fatal mistake. He submitted fake emails to the court, just like he had at the launch. Emails supposedly showing me and the others stealing his ideas. What he didn't know was that we'd preserved the originals. Timestamp. Verified. Metadata intact. By 2 p.m. the judge had seen enough. The injunction was denied. And James. He was now facing perjury charges for submitting doctored evidence. Outside the courtroom, Rachel addressed the cameras. James snuck away through a side exit. But even then, I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. That night, after the courtroom victory, I should have celebrated. Champagne, laughter, relief. Instead, I sat by the window of my hotel suite, my phone glowing with a new message. Final chance, Lydia. Drop this, or your parents will receive documentation of your academic fraud at MIT. Your father's position won't survive the scandal. Hit like a gut punch. There had been no fraud. But in grad school, I'd helped a classmate on a shared project. Early drafts looked like I had contributed significantly without attribution. Out of context, they could be twisted into something they weren't. James had access to everything. And my father. He had just been promoted to department chair. After years of hard work. After being the first in our family to break out of generational poverty. One fake file, one accusation, and his name could be dragged through the mud. Rachel studied the message and said flatly, "Classic intimidation. He's bluffing. But even if he's not, it's fabricated and we can prove it." I needed to hear my father's voice. When I called, I explained everything, honestly, carefully, holding back tears. When I finished, there was a pause. Then, "Emmy," he said, using the nickname he gave me when I was 6, "you've never backed down from anything in your life. Not dyslexia. Not sexism in tech. Not this. You fight. Let us worry about the rest." I hung up crying. But this time the tears weren't from fear. They were from love. At 2 p.m. the court reconvened. And this time the judge wasn't just skeptical. She was furious. "Presenting falsified evidence is not only unethical," she said sternly. "It's criminal. This matter is now referred to the district attorney's office for further investigation." James remained still. That perfect mask of his slipping just slightly. We walked out into a crush of cameras again. But something had changed. The tide was turning. That night, the 4 of us, me, Melanie, Sanjay, and Lucas, sat in my suite. Exhausted but clear-eyed. The alliance was a go. We raised glasses to Renaissance partners. Rebirth. But Melanie cautioned. "He's not done. He never goes quietly." She was right. The next morning, I received an email from his attorney. A settlement offer. If we dropped everything, signed NDAs, and walked away, James would withdraw all claims and leave the country. Sounded like a win. But it wasn't enough. Not for me. Not for Melanie. Not for the people James would target next. And then, like a final twist in a thriller, came the unexpected knock at my hotel door. Vanessa. She looked shaken. Disheveled. Her eyes filled with fear. "He's planning something desperate," she whispered. "He came to my apartment last night talking about starting over. He had drives. He said they were insurance." She handed me a piece of paper. "This is the address. He's hiding out there. I think he's going to do something terrible." I stared at her, not sure what to believe. "Why are you telling me this now?" Because he scared me. And because I think the brother I knew is gone. She turned and walked out. And I was left alone with a decision that would change everything. Could call Rachel. Or the police. But I didn't. Instead, I packed my phone, turned on a recording app, and texted Sophia the address, just in case I didn't come back. Then I got into a rideshare and told the driver, North Hills. Drive fast. The ride through the hills was quiet. Mist clung to the trees like a warning. The house at the address Vanessa gave me was small, tucked into the hillside, nearly swallowed by brush. It looked nothing like the man I'd once shared a home with. I knocked. James opened the door, unshaven, in a wrinkled button-down. He looked tired. Hello. But when he saw me, his eyes sharpened. Didn't expect a personal visit, he said. Where's your lawyer? I came alone, I replied. We need to talk. He stepped aside and let me in. The cottage was nearly empty. A laptop on the table. A half-finished drink. Few boxes by the wall. And him. No longer the master manipulator, but a man cornered by his own lies. Vanessa sent you, he said, sinking into a chair. She's afraid of you now, I answered. He sighed. She always was weak. No. You just never expected her to see through you. James leaned back. What do you want, Lydia? I want the drives. I want the insurance you've been threatening everyone with. I want your word on record that you'll stop. That this ends. Now. He studied me, quiet for a long moment. You know, he said softly, I really did love you. Not at first. Not even for the right reasons. But eventually. No, James. You loved control. Not me. His mouth twitched. Maybe. Or maybe I just couldn't stand being invisible. Then why target me? Why try to ruin me? Because you outgrew me. He stood and began pacing. You started getting the attention. Praise. The spotlight. You didn't need me anymore. And I couldn't stand it. His honesty didn't hurt anymore. I wasn't the same woman he'd ambushed on stage weeks ago. I was stronger now, rebuilt from the ashes. What's on the drives? Asked. He motioned to a box and handed over a small case. Everything I've gathered. On you. On the others. I haven't sent anything yet. Why give it up now? Asked. James shrugged. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I see when I've been outplayed. You win, Lydia. No one wins in this story, I said. We just survive it. As I turned to go, I paused. Was any of it real? Any moment of our marriage? He looked away. The night you solved that sensor calibration problem, and you fell asleep at your desk, carried you to bed. That was real. I was proud of you. And then I left. I didn't look back. 6 months later, I stood on a stage again. This time flanked by Sanjay, Melanie, and Lucas. The Renaissance Partners launch event was bigger than anything I could have imagined. Not just a tech revolution, but a personal one. Our alliance had become the gold standard for integrated sustainability. Our platforms work together to fight climate change, support developing communities, and build smarter businesses. Terran had survived. So had we. As I gave my speech, I looked out over the crowd. Investors, clients, students, journalists. And I realized something. James didn't break me. He uncovered me. He forced me to find a strength I didn't know I had. Purpose beyond survival. In the months that followed, James pled guilty to tampering and fraud. He left the country. Vanessa surprisingly joined our team. Her non-profit, finally free of her brother's shadow, became a vital part of our global outreach. And me. Became someone new. Not just Lydia the coder. Not just Lydia the founder. But Lydia the builder. The survivor. The architect of something James could never touch. Real legacy. Late one night, after the celebration, I stood by a hotel window with a glass of champagne and a quiet heart. My phone buzzed. Text from my dad. Watched the live stream. So proud of you, Emmy. You built something extraordinary from the ashes. He was right. Ed. The betrayal didn't destroy me. It revealed me. And from the pieces of that old life, I'd built the one I was always meant to live. Finally free,